I've got some new wedges, but I want to tell you why I've got them and why these numbers here are very important. Two things that I'm seeing players make a mistake of when purchasing wedges. Let's take a look at this guide and hopefully you'll be buying the right wedges for your game. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is this bit here, the mid and the 10 that I've got on all of these here, because that is the bounce. Now, it's probably something that we've heard about before. You've heard players say, use the bounce. What bounce have you got on that wedge? And if you've gone and bought a wedge, you might say, you know, the retailer has asked you, what bounce would you like? And you were a little bit flabbergasted and thought, you know, just the normal one, the mid one, the standard one, whatever it may be. But it's something that if we get the wrong one, it can have a detriment on our game. And also the type of golf course we're playing at can have a huge influence on the type of bounce you would probably want. Most of my golf is played here at Warrington Golf Club. This is where I remember I play rounds with my mates here. I do majority of my filming here. So it makes sense that I would get gear that would work around here. So the reason why I get this mid bounce, and bounce, if we don't know, just to clarify, is the angle between the back edge of the golf club and the leading edge of the golf club. So we would have like a high, low, medium, or it's all clarified in numbers. Like generally a low bounce would be a 4 degrees on a lob wedge, a mid would be about 10, and a high would be about 14, depending on the brand. But as we come over here and actually have a look at these golf balls as they're sat, as we can see, the grass here at Warrington, because it is a parkland, it's quite fluffy, as I would describe it. There's a little bit of cushion underneath it. It's not like tight links turf. So if we just take this one here, for instance, as I place the club in behind the golf ball here, we can see that there's almost that nice little cushion of turf behind the golf ball. And if we just wander over here, when we get towards the semi-rough or even the next step of rough here, again, it's quite lush. There's not that tight knit rough. If we were watching the Open Championship this week from Royal St George's, or you play a lot on the coast, we would see that the turf is really, really tight. So it's very firm and there's not much give in it. Here at Warrington, there's a little bit of give in it. There's that little bit of cushion. So I don't need something in my wedge where it's going to have very low bounce and get me almost digging the turf up. I want something that's going to glide across this little bit of a cushion as I'm going through. So that's where a higher bounce or a middle bounce, depending if you play more parkland stuff where the ground's a little bit fluffy, you're going to sit in the middle to high. If you're playing more link stuff, you're probably going to want a lower bounce so you can let the club slide underneath that tight bit of turf between the ball and the surface. Also, one of the other big things that is a big key to choosing the right bounce when you do go to select your wedges is all about how you swing it. So I want you to think about this. Are you a digger or are you a slider? Because if you're a digger and you've got a low bounce, a digger would generally come down quite steep on the golf ball. And if we've got a low bounce, which is almost acting like a little bit of a spade, that club's just going to go straight into the ground and probably get stuck a little bit. I personally get a little bit steep now and again, so that's why I've selected a mid bounce in these, because if I do end up getting a little bit steep on the shot and I just catch the ground before the golf ball, the mid bounce here for me is going to help me just get away with a shot here. So that one was pretty nice and pretty neat. Look at that, 3 feet, almost like I can chip nowadays. But you've got to choose the right bounce for you. So if you're someone who is quite steep, you're going to want a higher bounce. If you're getting shallower and you feel that you never really take a divot and you're always just brushing it off, you probably want to look at something a little bit lower. But it's something that, like I say, when I give lessons, I see a lot of people walk in and say, oh, I've just bought this new wedge. It's the wrong bounce, it's the wrong loft, and it's a waste of money, and I don't want you wasting your money. I want you to make the correct informed decisions. So think about it when you're playing that bounce. What type of golf course are you on? Are you on a lush parkland, or are you on more of a heathland or a links type of course with tight turf? And then are you nice and shallow, or are you digging it out? That's going to help you. If you're the digger, get the higher bounce. If you're shallow, you probably want something a little bit lower. The second thing is probably the most important, and this is where I'm seeing so many mistakes. You've got to get this right, because otherwise you're going to have clubs in your bag that are pretty much pointless. We're going to head over to the practice ground and I'm going to explain it to you now. So this is the big example. This is the most important bit, and it's all to do with the lofts of the golf club, because a lot of people that I teach are buying golf clubs that they don't need to buy. They're wasting money, and it's just not good informed choices, and that's all to do with loft. Like I say, I've got my old loft here, 52, I've got my new loft of 50, and then I've got a pitching wedge here, and there's a reason for that. Nowadays the pitching wedges are getting stronger. When I first started, a pitching wedge was 48 degrees, this one is 45 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 3 golf balls with each using my GC2 and give you the average of those numbers, and I'll show you why I've gone to a 50 v a 52. So let's hit the pitching wedge first to get our base number there. 3 balls, whack it away. There's one. So that one there, that's gone 132 yards. It's normally a 135 club for me, this one, as we go through it. So another shot and we'll see how far we go. Oh, that's right. 136 there, so we're averaging 133 at the minute. And another one at 136. So we're going to be at 134 with that. Let's have a look at the 52 and see how far that one goes. Okay, so first 52's gone 105 yards. It did feel like it popped up in the air a little bit. Let's get 2 more. $110, that one. And that one is 112. So we're going to be averaging round about 109 with the 52. Let's hit the 50 and see what we get there. So 123 with that first one. 2 more to go. $122. And 122 again. So on average there, we've got something where my pitching wedge is going 134 yards. Then I have my 52 that was going 110 roughly. So I've got a 25 yard gap, which is just too much, because trying to hit a little pitching wedge, it's a little bit finicky and fiddly, as where getting the correct loft, I've always had 52, 58. But then when I did my gapping session and found that that was going 135, this on average now going 122, I've got a nice 12 yard gap. Then my actual 54 goes 110 as well. So that actually then falls more in line. So I've got more segregated gaps there, or more in line gaps, as where people are buying wedges now, then getting another gap wedge, and there's too much gap there. Lofts have changed on golf clubs, so we need to make sure that we're getting the correct gaps as we're going through them. So if you're going out to buy a wedge, definitely go and get fit for it. See what your pitching wedge is firstly, so you can get the correct gap wedge and get the correct gaps throughout your bag. Don't have a 58 and a 60 and then a 50, too much gap. Then also get the correct bounce for yourself, depending whether you're a slider or a digger and what golf courses you're playing. From there then, we're not going to be wasting money on golf clubs, we'll be making more informed choices and getting the right clubs for our game. Guys, hope you've enjoyed this lesson this week. If you have, hit that subscribe button for me down below. I'll see you in your next one.